So after discussing the definition, how we define tetanus, and what's the difference between the neonatal and maternal tetanus. Now in this section, let's go over the pathophysiology of the tetanus. In this, we will talk about the etiology, some characteristics of the causative organism, which is Clostridium tetani, and then we will talk about the pathogenesis. Also, we will discuss the clinical and pathological progression of tetanus and the classification of the tetanus according to the severity of the illness. So etiology, you can see the Clostridium tetani in this picture. Clostridium tetani, it's an anaerobic, gram-positive, spore-forming bacteria. So it's anaerobic, means do not require oxygen for the growth. Anaerobic can grow in the absence of the oxygen, can be stained with the gram stain, so it's gram positive and is spore forming. The spores are highly resilient. The spores which are formed, they are hard to destroy, they are resistant, they are resilient, resist boiling and many disinfectants, survive in the intestinal systems of many animals. Fecal carriage is common. So the spores which are formed by the Clostridium tetani, they are resistant, very resilient, even boiling temperatures which can destroy a lot of microorganisms. These spores are resistant to that boiling temperature and they can survive in the intestine of many animals, and they are transferred or they can cause contamination by the fecal carriage. Enter the body through abrasions, wound, or umbilical stump. Commonly, if there is any injury or fall and there is abrasion of the skin and there is wound, and the wound or fall, if it is occur on the dirty area, on the nail, in the place where there is dust, usually it's very, very important that we should get the immunization against tetanus because there is increased likelihood of developing tetanus. This is the without spore rod-shaped body. This is the rod-shaped body. Clostridium tetani, it's a bacillus. So not cocci, bacillus are rod-shaped structure. So this is the without spore. Once the spore is produced, this is the terminal spore, and this is the spore alone. This is the core, this is the coat. Then we have the cortex and the germ cell wall. So that's the spore alone. So this is the Clostridium tetani without the spore, with the spore, and that's the spore alone. Spore has the center core, then the outer coat, cortex, and the germ cell wall. That's the structure of the spore produced by the Clostridium tetani. It grows in an anaerobic environment, in the environment which has no oxygen, multiply and release the toxin, which we said it's the neurotoxin known as the tetanus toxin. Exotoxin that enters the nervous system and cause disease. Minimum lethal human dose is 2.5 nanogram per kilogram. So how the pathology or pathogenesis or how it progresses By the Clostridium tetani, there is production of the neurotoxin that enters the nervous system, cause the disease, and this the dose that is required, minimum lethal dose, is 2.5 nanogram per kilogram of the body weight. And these are anaerobic microorganisms, means they do not require oxygen for their growth and multiplication. Here in this diagram, you can see this is the Clostridium, as we mentioned, that it produce the toxin, which is neurotoxin, grows through the synapses and attacks the muscles, causing the spasm of the skeletal muscle. So this is the Clostridium tetani. You can see these are the muscle fibers of the skeletal muscle. That's the neuromuscular junction. Here, this is the toxin that goes retrograde transport. It attacks the motor neuron and diffuses out of the cell, goes to the area which is excitatory synapse, and then goes to inhibitory synapse, presynaptic excitatory neuron, and inhibitory neuron. So as I mentioned, the neurotoxin, which is produced by the Clostridium tetani, it enters the nervous system and it attacks the skeletal muscles. It goes to the neuromuscular junction, and in the synapse it travels and it causes the attack on the excitatory synapse, presynaptic inhibitory neuron, and excitatory neuron, and it causes inhibition and cause excitation, and that neuron become hyperactive or hyper stimulated, and it causes constant spasm or contraction, and the inhibitory synapse is slowed down, so there is no relaxation of the muscle, and this can cause spasm. Then the clinical and pathologic progression of tetanus, again the same. Let's go in detail in the diagrammatic chart form how the toxin act and cause the disease. First, the infection of the wound. Once the wound is there, laceration of the skin is present, abrasion of the wound is present, there is no symptoms. First, wound infection, multiplication of Clostridium tetani, then there are no symptoms in the first 7 to 10 days. After that, the tetanus toxin uptake into nervous system and VAMP cleavage in GABA inhibitory neurons. Initial symptoms then which occur is muscle aches, trismus, and myalgia. Then there is, once the toxin is released within 24 to 72 hours, what happens? Further toxin affects, causing widespread distribution of motor and autonomic nervous system, muscle spasm, local and generalized, cardiovascular instability, labile blood pressure, tachy or bradycardia, pyrexia, increased respiratory and gastrointestinal secretions. So once the toxin is produced, once the toxins start acting on different parts of the body, it affects the muscles, it affects the cardiovascular system, it affects the respiration and gastrointestinal tract also. Then again, as the disease further progresses in 4 to 6 weeks, now what happens? There is degradation of the toxin which is produced, cessation of spasm, restoring of normal muscle tone, cardiovascular and autonomic control. So it's about a progress of disease taking about 4 to 6 weeks Finally, at what stage the toxin which is produced is degraded, and it's a serious illness. In severe condition, mortality rate is very high because you can see it is causing spasm of all the skeletal muscle. Later on, it is affecting cardiovascular system. It is affecting the breathing because of attacking on the respiratory system and increased gastrointestinal secretion. So if it is a fatal disease if not treated properly or not managed properly. Next, Ablett classification of tetanus severity. We have 4 grades of tetanus severity. Mild cases. In mild cases, there is mild to moderate trismus, spasticity, no respiratory compromise, no spasm, little or no dysphagia. So it's a mild condition. Definitely prognosis is better in the mild condition. Then we have moderate tetanus, which is moderate trismus, well-marked rigidity, mild to moderate, short spasm, moderate respiratory involvement with respiratory rate more than 30 breaths per minute, mild dysphagia. Then in the third stage, which is now the severe state, severe trismus, generalized spasticity, reflects prolonged spasm, respiratory rate more than 40, apneic spasms, severe dysphagia, tachycardia greater than 120 beats per minute. So the progress is more and more, severity of the illness is increasing, prognosis is decreasing with the progress of the illness. In the fourth stage, which is very severe, mortality rate will be high because of respiratory distress and involvement. Grade 3 with autonomic dysfunction involving cardiovascular system, severe hypertension and tachycardia, alternating with relative hypotension and bradycardia, either of which may be persistent. So in stage 4, which is more persistence of stage 3, but in this autonomic dysfunction is more, involvement of the autonomic nervous system is more, so there is periods of hypertension, high blood pressure, and periods of hypotension. So that concludes section 2 of our lecture. Thank you for watching sqadia.com.